When the 20-year-old allegations that Woody Allen sexually molested his then 7-year-old daughter recently resurfaced, no new clarity was brought to the case. We're no closer to knowing his guilt or innocence, although a few other things are remarkably clear. The allegations cost Allen dearly. He lost custody and visitation rights with all of his kids and massive amounts of money. And despite his long legacy of great artistry in the cinema, his integrity and reputation remain controversial. Earlier today, I talked about it with Marshall Henslee, a Towson, Maryland-based criminal defense attorney. Thanks for joining me, Marshall.
Of course.
In your experience as a defense lawyer, how unusual is it to see allegations of sexual abuse or molestation in a contentious divorce?
Well, fortunately, it's something that really doesn't happen all that often. There are lots of divorces filed every year in America, and it's a pretty small percentage that have allegations like this come up. But when they do happen, it's quite a bombshell.
Allen recently wrote that when it first came up for him, the charges against him seemed so ludicrous that he did virtually nothing. How big of a mistake was that?
Well, you have to remember that you're really fighting in two different areas. One, it would be in the criminal justice sphere, which is when you might face criminal charges and be brought up on those and have to go to trial on them. The other is what you might refer to as the court of public opinion. And that is probably the more intangible one, the one that's harder to really defend yourself against those. And so you've just got to be careful that you're addressing both, especially when you're a famous person like Woody Allen.
So do the allegations alone doom somebody's hopes of custody or visitation?
No, it doesn't alone do that, but it certainly does make things a lot more complicated, and it makes things a lot harder to deal with.
Marshall, Woody Allen was never arrested or put on trial for the charges that were against him, but he lost quite a bit. He lost custody and visitation of his kids. He also lost a lot of money, and his reputation took a beating. So would you say he successfully defended himself or not?
Well, I would give him a thumbs up in the criminal justice area. He was never arrested, never faced any sort of charges. Clearly in the divorce case, though, it hurt him tremendously. I certainly wasn't there when the judge issued the ruling that he not have any visitation or custody of his children, but it's hard to imagine that this didn't play a part in that. And then further, in the court of public opinion, boy, that's might be the hardest hit he took.
Marshall, one of the interesting issues in this case was the fact that Allen had become involved with his paramour's daughter. Soon-Yi Previn, Mia Farrow's daughter, was 19 years old when he had become involved with her. How much does an unusual life choice like that affect the outcome of a serious case like this?
Well, let's be honest, this is probably the first thing that people talk about when they're convinced that Woody Allen did this, that he was married and was involved in a sexual relationship with a girl who was almost a minor and so much younger than he was. They've been happily married, I assume, since then, so I guess it's been a good relationship, but it definitely hurt in the court of public opinion and may have played a part in the divorce and custody issue as well.
What kinds of mistakes do you see that Woody Allen made in this case that you would recommend that others avoid?
Well, looking back, he did well in the sense that he was never charged with this. He never was arrested or anything. It's hard to say otherwise what he could have done differently. I suppose not have been involved in a relationship with a 19-year-old girl at the time. But it's hard to look back and call that a mistake if they've been happily married ever since, but it certainly damaged his reputation further and also presumably hurt him in the custody issue as well.
So it certainly hurt his divorce, even though in a criminal sense it didn't have a bearing on the case.
Absolutely.
And can you take us through the steps one should go through to protect themselves in the aftermath of a devastating allegation like a sexual molestation charge in a divorce? From your perspective as a criminal lawyer, what steps could a person take to come out not only not arrested or charged, but also in a good situation in their divorce?
Well, number one is talk to your attorney. And if you don't already have an attorney, get an attorney, because these are serious allegations that we've talked about, and they can hurt you in a number of different ways. And a little bit, this is a case-by-case basis. You have to look at these allegations and these particular facts and decide what the best way to defend yourself is. But What I can say is when you are facing charges like this, you're obviously accused of doing something in particular. Try to find out what the actual allegations are so that you can look back over your calendar or maybe talk to people who you were with, trying to build up an alibi or other witnesses who could help you defend yourself on these charges.
Marshal, thanks very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So if you're facing serious criminal allegations in your divorce, it might be a good idea to give an experienced criminal lawyer a call. You can reach Marshal Henslee by email or by phone.